there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I've got a book that I've really been looking forward to, really excited about, Richard Corben's Den, in a new remastered edition by the master colorist Jose Villarrubia, who we've had the honor to talk to and interview on the channel. Got a lot of insight about how he went about this book, so definitely make sure to go check that out. This is part of Dark Horse's new Richard Corben library. You can see here this really beautiful dust jacket. Luckily, since I don't like dust jackets, you just get the same image but bigger on the cover here. Not quite as fancy with the gold, but I really like this, and I think this will sit on the shelf nicely without the dust jacket on it. So really excited about this book. I will admit that I've never been a huge fan of Corben. I know he's one of those people that is just lauded by everyone. I've always felt his work looked awkward and like claymation or like proto 3D animation to me. This volume changes that because it's so well produced, and because Jose did such a great job on the remastering and recoloring, this gives me a better picture into why people appreciate Corben so much. I still think the subject matter and the writing of it is just not my speed. I think it feels a little bit outdated. It's very much, looking at H.P. Lovecraft kind of language. I think that's pretty common understanding of Corben, is the association with Lovecraft and pulpy magazines. And it's definitely early heavy metal, like naked people running around fighting, kind of surreal psychedelic stories and things like that. So I don't know, not my speed, but I get why, like, at the time that this came out, it would have just absolutely blown people's minds, the art especially. And then here Patton Oswalt does an introduction, and he says, "This is the world of Corben, the prog rock strip club at the far end of your mind." And I think that actually really helped me appreciate it even more, because it put me in the mind of like, oh yeah, this looks like a Yes album cover, and it is something that's of that time and delving into those worlds, and that helped a lot. Also, I've seen parts of Den, but I've never read it from the beginning, so I never understood like what the conceit of the story was, and that helped me enjoy it a little bit more. But when you look at the art, and especially as it's been restored by Jose, who's a master colorist himself, and was close friends with Corben and his wife, and really knows the processes that were used, and just, a real master of reproduction, color reproduction. You get to see these images like this and really understand the beauty of what Corben was doing. And again, like, I'm used to seeing Corben not reproduced very well. You gotta be careful with this book. There's thick dongs everywhere in it. But I'm used to seeing Corben not reproduced so well. Like, some of this early stuff kind of gets to what my idea of Corben is this more like everything looks like Play-Doh. There's these really like harsh jumps in contrast that make things feel very three-dimensional, but it's kind of clumpy and gunky, and I don't think he ever does really well with like just black and white pen and ink work. It's a little clumsy going right into the color. A lot of it has the like Von Baudet feel, who's another person who's always just been everything looks like claymation figures. So when he's working in that mode, I still don't like it. But as you go further into this book, you really see the art take off. This panel here cracked me up because he's got this rock, and he's sexually excited, and so the rock's like hiding his very well-endowed self there. That's the strange part about this book to me, is that you've just got this guy running around with the gigantic, like, I flipped it open as soon as I got it, and Tori was like, well, that's a hell of a dong. And there's a lot of dong in here. But here you get that, the stuff I'm talking about, where I just don't like his pen and ink work. It has that Baudet feel, which is just, I don't know, something about the lumpiness of that doesn't fit for me. But when he's going into these more fully rendered, fully painted things, then you get this just wonderfully beautiful set of colors and set of rendering and everything. So as the book evolves and his processes evolves to where he's doing the black and white and then doing 12 different color separations by hand on the film, which is the nuttiest thing I've ever heard. But he's getting amazing colors out of it, and the idea that he's doing that and being able to predict what colors those make is astonishing. The other thing that talking to Jose opened up for me is that beyond looking at, we gotta cover some of this up, beyond like the Baudet, you have the Maxfield Parrish. And I'd never made that connection before, but seeing the stuff in here, I see Maxfield Parrish quite a bit. Like this guy is 100% Maxfield Parrish. And Parrish's interest in production color, that he painted in layers basically of CMYK transparently, and that's how he achieved his colors. You can see that in the artwork, and it comes across very well in print because of how Jose's prepared these. It's just beautiful. Like, it glows in the way that a Parrish piece does when you see it in person. Those things were never really captured well for Parrish in photograph because of the way he painted the glazes. It's really hard to photograph glazes. But the other thing that I think helped me, I've seen Din before, like I said, but I'd never understood the context. To me, it was just a naked guy running around, banging chicks and beating up lizards. Here you have this letter, and really what you get is Din is David Ellis Norman, and I'm sure everyone else knows this, but I didn't. And he's received a letter from his uncle Dan, who I'm assuming is probably also a DEN, and the letter tells him how to build this thing, and it opens a portal into a world, and then this big guy with his big meaty dong, I don't know if I can show this on YouTube, but I have to, like, it's on every page, but this picture of him jumping is so crazy. But basically this, like, he's a skinny nerdy kid, and he's been given the fantasy body of the huge buff perfect physique with the gigantic dong, and then he gets to go around and beat up lizards and bang hot chicks. So it's leaning into that like childish power fantasy. I think that is like pretty much just a narrative justification for Corben wanting to do this, but it works pretty well as a justification, I guess, because it's just an admission of like, fuck it, this is what I want to do. This is my fantasy world. I'm going to do what I want. And so that being built in there made it more interesting. And also understanding there's this longer mission of Din looking for Dan. That's interesting to me. The way that the majority of the story is told, with the captions and like the interior narrative, kind of trying to do the Lovecraft like first person, I went and did this happened to me. I'd rather just read Lovecraft. I like the book quite a bit better when it's actually functioning like a comic and the characters are talking and stuff. The other thing is, like, the pictures like this is still where I have trouble with Corben. There's something about the way he draws faces that really turns me off in the majority of places. Like this face here, he doesn't look like this guy who's jumping in. Nothing about this pose suggests to me that he's gonna go kick people's asses. It looks like he's, I don't know, he looks like Sloth from the Goonies, basically. And I feel like there's a lot of times where Corben, especially when everything's bigger, he does a very good job, but as things get smaller, it's like he can't control the details, especially in the faces, and they just look so ugly to me and so weird and mushy, and that claymation thing comes into play. So like that face there is just so ridiculous. It doesn't look like a man with the battle cry. But that's like part of the Corben vibe too, is it's just such a peculiar, personal, particular view of things that, like, it's just, you can't match it. You couldn't get close to it. But again, you'll see here, like, the faces are just, on this woman especially, and the expressions when he goes small are just god-awful, ugly faces. But then when he goes larger, like here, I mean, they're almost photorealistic faces, like in a movie set lighting. So I just, there's like this inconsistency to it that is part of what makes the Corben vibe, but it turns off and on for me. But then you get like the color work in here. I've just never seen this reproduced so well, and so I just didn't quite get it. And the psychedelic nature of the colors and these amazing effects that he's getting back here, and especially knowing what the process was for these. I have no idea how you get these kind of smooth color gradients by hand adjusting 12 negatives. It's just absolutely insane to me how he did that. But the effects are stunning, and it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. And when he draws creatures like this battle toad looking thing over here, it looks really good. And the dramatic lighting that he's using, the crazy coloration, all of that is stuff that I guess I've just never seen. This is obviously peak Corben as well. I don't know that I've ever really delved into like his peak period. I think I've seen later stuff where he's not doing that same crazy process, and so the colors weren't as rich and stuff. There are a few moments of humor in here, but given like the absurdity of the guy with the gigantic dong running around beating up lizards, you would think that it would kind of have more humor just built into it, like aware that it's absurd. But it's usually pretty like self-serious, it seems like. There's a few moments like this where he's like grasping around in the dark and he winds up grabbing this woman's breasts, and then the lights turn on and he's like shocked by it. But even these moments, even though I'm laughing at them, they don't feel like they're intended to be humorous, which is strange to me. They just seem, again, more like, oh, wouldn't that be nice if I stumbled into these nice firm breasts? There doesn't seem to be this humor throughout it that the premise itself suggests. I think the thing that I like the most about the artwork is just when Corben is getting these strange textures. I don't even know how he's producing them. In the introduction, Jose said that some of these are like hand painted throughout, and then some of them are using that odd like 12 negative adjusted process that he used. And I really, I paying attention, and I don't think I can tell the difference between them. But stuff like this looks like he's taking advantage of pigments pooling and things like that. But I mean, just the image with the always using the warm lighting on one side and the cool on the other, and these like side rim lightings everywhere. It just makes some really beautiful images. And again, like thinking of the context at the time, where this is in a fantasy magazine, and people have probably seen this art on the covers of pulp magazines and stuff, but never on the inside, really fleshing out a whole world. I can understand why this stuff just absolutely blew people's minds at the time. I think now we're more familiar with painted comics and stuff like that, and so some of the weirdness of like the faces and stuff is easier to spot, whereas back then, pre-computer generated, pre-special effects in movies that look this good, this must have just been one of the most realized fantasy worlds that anyone's ever seen. And so I totally get that. And when you're getting, again, these effects like this, it's just that speak to the lava lamp and the psychedelics of the time, when you're getting these color combinations like this that are just way unhinged, and again feel almost like early computer graphics to me in a sense. The vision of that world is just stunning. These like fragmented glass effects here are breaking into more of like the stained glass here, and then more of just like a broken swirly glass there. Again, the textural effects, the amazing detail on the hand and the arm, and again the strange colors, but somehow all coming together and still feeling like a natural world. It's just beautiful. I think like the more psychedelic passages like this are the things that really appealed to me. So really enjoyed looking at it, really looking forward to future volumes of it. Here you get some more. This is where I was really thinking, you're looking at something that at the time would have been so realized, feeling so realistic with these dragons flying around. And here you do see, speaking to like that psychedelic prog rock, yes, type of cover art. Those seem to be the three touch points, is the Bode, the Maxfield Parrish, and the I forget the guy's name, but the guy that was doing the cover art for Yes, with those very colorful, fantastic worlds. And it just seems like you get to watch it like a movie. And he's such a great storyteller as well. He's not just an illustrator. I feel like a lot of painted comic art focuses on each panel as an illustration at the expense of the story, and this kind of brings together both, where you're really getting someone who's a great storyteller but can also illustrate and paint their ass off and compose their ass off. And just images like that are, they're so testosterone ridden and cool. Like, how could you not enjoy that? Then this was the other scene where it leaned into some humor, and this one was actually funny, but again, it's so saturated with like just horniness basically, that it's hard to see it just as pure comedy. So here you have this queen that's been chasing Din the whole time, and she's latched on to his very gigantic dong here to his pleasure. And then the girl that he actually wants to be with swoops in on a dragon to save him and pick him up, and the queen's just stuck on there still, and then starts falling off, and they shake her off eventually. So those I think are the moments that I enjoy more, even though they're totally ridiculous. It's like, if you're gonna lean into this ridiculous premise that this book is, you might as well go full bore and be jokey about it. I think of like a Seth Rogen movie, especially the one This Is the End, where it's like this end of the world apocalypse movie, but it's really a comedy. That would have been a more appropriate vibe for me, and it only shows up in a few places in this edition, at least. Also, I think, speaking of his faces, when he does land a face like these ones, I mean, he's doing an amazing job. So it's a weird thing where the faces are a bit inconsistent, and I feel like that never resolves itself in any of Corben's work that I've ever seen. But when he lands it, yeah, like these are amazing paintings. But then you get these monsters back here that's like, they just look warped. In the back you get a couple cool, like, you get to see some of the black and white art, some early sketches, and then there's like collections of old covers here. Especially these painted ones like this that Jose's gone back and restored the colors on these as well. These are really gorgeous. So this is a hell of a collection, and if you haven't got yourself a copy, definitely go out and get it. Like I said, I couldn't even get it from Amazon, even though I pre-ordered it. I had success with Barnes & Noble, so it's definitely out there. And then there's 2 more volumes of this that are already up where you can pre-order them on Amazon. Hopefully they'll get their shit together and the pre-orders will actually come through this time. But I think this is for a legend like Corben, it's really good. This is what we should be doing. This is the gold standard for how masters like that should be being recollected in complete libraries and handed over to people who really know what they're doing in terms of reproducing the art, so you can kind of have a definitive library edition of someone's career. And the more these go out and get support and are sold, the better chance we are having to get a complete Corben library as much as we can. They're not going to be able to reproduce like his Cage work for Marvel or whatever, but this is a great chance to get a complete collection. So definitely go out and support this, and help Jose be able to keep working on this restoration project that he's absolutely knocking out of the park. Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.